Hey guys, Victor here again, coming at you with another deck profile. And today's deck profile is actually going to be an update to the previous Tearlament list I uploaded roughly a week and a half ago. Not much to say. I recently took this to locals again, and I actually managed to get first place. And I know it's not an accomplishment because it's just locals, but there's still like a lot of competitive decks that I was able to like properly test against, like Kashtira, Sprite, Labyrinth, etc. And yeah, somehow I was still able to get to first place. So with that out of the way, let's jump straight into the deck profile. So kicking off the monster lineup, we are of course going to be playing 3 Tearlaments Kashtira. This is the newest card from Photon Hypernova, and it's one of the main reasons why we can actually consistently play the game, as whenever it's special summoned, which you can accomplish by banishing one Kashtira or Tearlaments card, you're able to either mill 3 cards from the top of your deck or your opponent's deck, and typically you want to mill 3 cards from the top of your deck, as of course you want to be able to consistently mill your engine. But there are times where you mill your opponent's deck if you want to like deck them out, or you've already milled all your pieces, so there's no reason for you to mill your own stuff. And then in addition to being able to mill those 3 cards, if this card is sent to the graveyard by card effect, you can mill 2 more cards from the top of your deck. So the consistency that this card offers to the deck is just invaluable. And then after that, we are of course going to be playing the Tearlament monsters, being the one of Scheiren, the one of Havnis, the one of Merrli, and the one of Reinoheart. Every single one of these except for Reinoheart has been limited off the previous list, so it's the main reason why we played 3 Tearlaments Kashtira, just because we need to be able to mill, and yeah, those cards just to help us enable it to do it. I don't really feel like you need more than 1 Reinoheart, if I'm being honest, because you typically don't want to normal summon it in this updated version of the deck I'm playing. You'd much rather just mill it, and this deck already mills like crazy, so you're going to be able to hit the 1 fairly consistently. But that doesn't mean it's still not good, because just being able to normal summon this, like if your hand's fairly weak, can still get you a long way, as you're able to send either a Fusioner, or you can send a Tearlaments Kashtira to try and get 2 more cards milled. So yeah, this card definitely still has a lot of uses. I just don't feel like it's that great at more than 1. And then of course we're going to be playing the Agido engine still. So we have the 1 Kelbek and the 1 Agido, along with the 1 Keldo and the 1 Mudora. Being able to have complete control over the graveyard and being able to mill our deck 5 cards at a time is honestly really huge. Not much to say. These cards are just insane if you're able to get them off. And luckily, we are able to consistently get them off thanks to 3 Diviner of the Herald. This is going to be our main normal summon of the deck. And you typically want to send any one of the Agido cards, depending on what your hand is, whether it be the millers or the shufflers. It doesn't really matter. It's just whatever helps you most in the situation. And then this card just honestly does so much for the deck, because in addition to being able to mill the 5 that you send or being able to get the shuffler, this card also becomes level 6. So it helps you synchro and exease a lot more easily, which is a really huge bonus for this type of deck. And even if it gets negated, it's okay, thanks to it being a level 2, which means you're going to have easy access to Sprite Sprint in order to be able to send Merrli and continue your combos. So yeah, I definitely feel this card is really good and should definitely be played at 3 of as the format progresses for this type of deck. And then next we'll be playing 3 King of the Swamps. I bumped this up to 2, or bumped this up from 2, just because I feel like 3 copies is really useful. Even if you're not able to discard it to get to the Polymerization, being able to consistently mill this to be able to special summon your Tearlament monsters from the extra deck is really invaluable. So that's more than enough reason just to justify playing 3 of these. And then after that, we're going to be playing 2 Destiny Hero Malicious. I still really like the Destiny Hero package in this, just because, as mentioned earlier, with Diviner of the Herald, it becomes level 6, and with Malicious, that gives you a free rank 6 play. And yeah, this card, these free extenders that the Malicious and the 1 Destiny Hero Denier that I'm playing offers you is just insane, because you're able to access your fusions, your synchros, your exes, your links, whatever, so much more easily compared to before, just thanks to these cards existing in the deck. And then after that, we play the 1 of Zephyros. Much like the Destiny Heroes, it's a free extender, and this card has like a lot of really cool uses, mainly being able to bounce back your Tearlaments Kashtira, and by doing this, you get a free level 4 for your rank 4 plays, and you get a Tearlaments Kashtira to be able to special summon during either your opponent's turn or your next turn, which goes a long way because that means you're going to be able to mill 3 more cards. And yeah, this card is just fantastic. And then in addition to that, we're going to be playing the 1 Destrudo. Much like Zephyros and Malicious and Denier, this is another extender that pretty much gives you access to so many cards in your extra deck, whether it be the Synchros, the Xyz, or the Links. Yeah, this card is just fantastic, and I definitely feel like it should be a staple in most, if not all, Kashtira decks going forward, just because of the versatility that it offers you. And with that, that's the monster lineup, and now we can finally move on to the spells and traps. So kicking off the spell lineup, we are of course going to be playing 3 Primeval Planet Perlereino. It's a fantastic field spell because it does literally everything for this deck, as it's able to search for any Tearlaments monster and boost all your Tearlament monsters and fusion monsters by 500 attack. And if a Tearlament card is shuffled into the deck or extra deck, you get to destroy 1 card on the field. Yeah, not much to say. This card's at 3, so we're playing it at 3. And then something that isn't as common is triple Super Poly. I've always loved this card, but I honestly felt like it wasn't really that great until fairly recently, because it's actually really good against branded, because they always leave their field with like fusion monsters and dark monsters, and they're just easy Super Poly targets. And then against things like Labyrinth, all their monsters are dark too, so we're able to Super Poly them into cards like Mud Dragon, which help us win more easily because then their traps can't target our cards. But the main reason that I play Super Poly is actually for Kashtira, and that's only for game 1. And the reason for this is because of the fact that their end boards game 1, honestly, they're typically going to like try to zone lock you, and they will rip a card out of your extra deck. However, what they're not going to take out is Mud Dragon. And that's because when they see that you're playing a Tearlament deck, they're typically going to gravitate towards cards like Tearlaments Reinoheart or Tearlaments Reinoheart, because those cards are just too impactful to ignore. So this pretty much frees you up to punish them by allowing you to Super Poly with their board away into your own Mud Dragon, which typically they won't banish as stated. But this strategy only works game 1 because they don't expect the Super Poly. For games 2 and 3, this card is always pretty much sided out in favor of cards such as Artifact Lancia, which just completely stunts that deck's playability. And yeah, so for that, I wanted to main deck 3 Super Poly, but as I stated, it's only for game 1 against Kashtira, because that's literally our hardest matchup. But thanks to this card, we're able to shut it out fairly consistently if it's able to succeed. And it's honestly really easy to resolve because we play so many dark monsters in case they go for just the single Reinoheart play, right, where they have one Reinoheart and like a Lance or whatever. We just set our monster, and then they can either try to banish it, which we change Super Poly, or we just raw Super Poly then and there. And the game is pretty much over at that point because they've lost all their resources. So yeah, I just think this card is actually like surprisingly like really good at this moment. And then after that, we're going to be playing 2 Foolish Burial Goods. I knocked this down from 3 just because thanks to the Diviner being able to send the Ishizu cards, we already have like a lot of mill, but it's still nice to have just 2, you know, just to have like a focus, whether you want to send like a Suliek or a Scream or just anything else. And then after that, we're also going to be playing the 2 Tearlaments Scream, just another consistency card, as it helps us mill 3 more cards on the top of our deck whenever a monster is normal or special summon while we control a Tearlament monster, and if it's sent to the graveyard, it searches for a Tearlament trap. So yeah, just a good card. And then we play a bunch of 1-ofs for the spells. So we play the 1 of Foolish, the 1 of Terraforming, the 1 of Polymerization, and the 1 of Call by the Grave. And then we also play 1 more card in addition to that, being Card Destruction. So this card's actually really cool because it's kind of like an insta-win button if you're able to resolve it, as you typically have 2 to 3, like on average, cards that will trigger if this card resolves. And yeah, it's just really cool because it gives you full knowledge of your opponent's deck if you're able to play it turn 1, game 1. And even then, like, just being able to get rid of a bunch of cards, trigger them, in addition to drawing a new hand is huge because it just allows you to do so much with the deck. So much like Dark World, if you're able to resolve card destruction, it's pretty much an insta-win for the most part. And then after that, we have our trap lineup. So we're going to start with 2 Tearlaments Suliek because it's Suliek. If it's sent to the graveyard, you can add any Tearlaments monster. This will be one of the main targets for Foolish Burial Goods, but we also really enjoy taking advantage of the negation of being able to send any one of our cards to negate a monster's effect. And the cool part about Suliek is that it negates permanently. So even if it leaves the field, by the way, the monster that it negates will continue to be negated. So the card is just really good. And then for our final trap, we're going to be playing 1 Trivia Karma, or 1 Trivi Karma. This card's really cool because you can banish it in order to add any card in your deck that has Visa Starfrost in the text. So that means you can either add your planets, you can add your Suliax, you can add your Screams. And yeah, this card is just great for consistency, and it's really easy to get it into the grave. Even if you end up like drawing it, right? It's still fairly easy thanks to the Destiny Hero engine. So yeah, this card's just great, and I think it's a really good addition to the deck. And with that, that's the main deck. That's 40 cards. And now we can finally move on to the extra deck. Now, when it comes to the extra deck, we play a lot of fusion monsters still. So because of that, we're going to be playing the one Tearlaments Reinoheart, along with the one Tearlaments Rokolos. This deck is basically Rokolos Turbo, as you want to be able to summon this as quickly as possible, because there are so many cards that special summon off of effects currently, such as Branded Fusion, Branded in Red, any Sword Soul monster, the Tearlaments, or yeah, Tearlament cards in the mirror match, the Kashtira spell that summons from the deck, Welcome Labyrinth, Big Welcome Labyrinth, and just so on and so on. So it's really important that you just turbo this card out too. And then Reinoheart's there just to ensure that you can actually like keep control of the board by being able to shuffle something away. And when it gets sent to the grave, it can special summon itself back and send any Tearlament card from your deck to the grave. So yeah, they're just really good. And then after that, we are, of course, going to be playing the one Mudragon of the Swamp. This is going to be the main Super Poly target, especially against Kashtira, because as I mentioned earlier, for Games 1, this card, not on their radar, but what is on their radar are the Tearlament cards. So they're going to tend to focus them more often, especially because they don't respect Super Poly, and you're just going to be able to punish them fairly easily. So yeah, that's why we played the Mudragon, and it's still really cool and really good to be able to summon it off like your Tearlament monster plus any dark monster, and yeah, just good card is good. But we're also going to be playing the one Garura and the one Dragostapelia. Garura is fantastic because it's a level 6, it's a dark, it does double damage when it inflicts battle damage, it draws a card, what more is there to say? It does so much for this deck. And then you have Dragostapelia, which is clutch with being able to negate any monster by placing a predator counter on them, and it's incredibly effective against Sprite, because it turns any monster with a predator counter into a level 1. So if they normal summon their monster, you place a predator counter on it, and then that basically says you either have the starter or you lose the game. So yeah, they're just really good cards to have. And then we're also going to be playing the one Guardian Chimera. If I'm being honest, this is probably the most lackluster card of the bunch, just because it's pretty difficult to make, surprisingly, even with like the 3 King of the Swamps being able to search out the poly. And most of the time, you're actually going to end up milling the poly on accident because you're not going to draw the King of the Swamp. And even if you can make this, it's just not optimal a lot of the times, especially if you're going first because you have no card to destroy, which means you're not going to be able to draw anything. But yeah, it's still nice to have, because if it does resolve, you typically have like a couple of Tearlament monsters that you use to make this. So you're going to get their additional effects, you're going to draw, you're going to destroy cards, and yeah. So you still play the one just to keep it in there, but it's by far the most droppable card in the extra deck. And then lastly, for the fusions, we play one Destiny Hero Dangerous. This card is fantastic because it's able to foolish any Destiny Hero monster. So you typically want to send Malicious. It's a level 6, so you have rank 6 plays. It's a dark, so you have like recyclability into cards like Mudragon or Dragostapelia. And when you try to foolish, it's also a free discard. So you can send your Trivikarmas, your Zephyros, your Destrudo, your Ashizu cards, whatever, and just get their effects off that way a lot more easily. This card is just fantastic and does so much for the deck. And then after that, we also play Links. So we play the one Proxy F Magician. This is basically a Polymerization when we don't have Polymerization, because it fusion summons using monsters on the field. And then if you special summon a fusion monster, or like through fusion summoning to a zone it points to, you can special summon any monster from your hand with 1,000 attack or less. So this pretty much gives you a free extender into being able to special summon cards like Tearlaments Merrli, Destrudo, or Diviner of the Herald, which is huge because if you can special summon Diviner of the Herald, that means that you can foolish for any of your Ashizu cards and just continue on with your combos. This card's really good and really underrated. And then the other Link 2 we play is Dark, the Dark Charmer. Not much to say. This card really shows its impact in games 2 and 3, because if you're playing as a player that has like Bestials, for example, you're typically going to mill one of them. So you can use this to special summon their Bestial monster and then go into another rank 6 play. And then it's also really good because if it gets destroyed by battle or card effect, you're able to add either Tearlaments Scheiren or Tearlaments Havnis to your hand to be able to play during your next turn or your opponent's turn. So yeah, it's just a really good card. And then for our final link, we play Sprite Sprint. Since we played Diviner, which is a level 2, chances are the opponent is going to negate it constantly, and because of that, we're going to be able to play Sprite Sprint in order to be able to send Tearlaments Merrli just to continue off our combos. Yeah, not much to say. It's just a good card to extend our plays. And then for Xyz, we of course play the one-time Thief Redoer. This is the only rank 4 Xyz we play, as we side the Dweller instead of, like maining it. But the more than enough gets the job done because you're able to detach for effect. So you typically want to detach like a Scheiren or a Reinoheart, for example. And just being able to take your opponent's top card in their deck and use it to your advantage, especially if it's like a trap or a spell for a free draw or a free return, is huge. And then after that, we play one Willow, Founder of the Judge Dragon. This is one of the 2 rank 6s that we play, and this will be the one that we use to be able to get over big threats such as like the Arrival Ignister or Avermax, because it boosts every single monster you control by 100 attack and defense for every card in your opponent's graveyard. And since we play the Ishizu monsters, that means we can pretty much get 10 cards into the opponent's graveyard guaranteed every time, which means that at minimum, you're getting a plus 1,000 attack boost. And then it also has a couple other really useful effects too. So if you detach one material, it acts as an Ishizu shuffler, so you can shuffle 1 card in your opponent's graveyard back into their deck. And if you detach 2 materials, you're able to take 1 card in your opponent's grave and set it to your side of the field. And yeah, if it's a monster by any chance, you can either put that in face up or face down defense. So it's really cool being able to take a monster to like Xyz or synchro with, or just link off or whatever. But the main value of this is that since cards like Triple Tactics Talents are heavily played currently, and there's a lot of hand traps, chances are that you're actually going to be able to set a Triple Tactics, and then you're going to be able to use it to punish your opponent and shuffle away a card, or if you really need to, you can also just draw 2. So yeah, this card is really cool in what it can do. But the best rank 6 we play is Beatrice. What's there to say? This card literally does everything for the deck because it's able to foolish any single card that you want. You want to mill 5, you send an Ishizu card like Kelbek or Agido. You want to be able to synchro summon, send Destrudo. You just want to extend into like a rank 4, send Zephyros. You want to see a Destiny Hero monster for extra plays, send a Destiny Hero. Or if you just want a fusion summon, send a Tearlament monster. This card is just fantastic in what it can do. And yeah, there's not much to say. This card is by far the most impactful card in the extra deck. And then when it comes to synchros, we're going to start off with FA Dawn Dragster. Thanks to Destrudo, this card is incredibly easy to make. You just target any level 6 or lower monster you control, and it's an insta FA Dawn Dragster with Destrudo. But the main synchro that we play is Baron de Fleur. Now, compared to Dawn Dragster, this is an Omni Negate, and it's still incredibly easy to make because we have a couple of like interesting methods. So we can use Diviner as a level 6 plus any level 4. We can use Destrudo copying a Denier or a Havnis plus any level 6 because Destrudo becomes level 4. Or the most common method is you use Destrudo's effect, you target a level 4 monster, which you pretty much always have, to make it level 3, and then you synchro with your level 7 Tearlaments Kashtira as, 7 plus 3 quick mass, that equals 10, which means you can make Baron de Fleur incredibly easy in this deck. And even like just having that Omni Negate is more than enough to win you games sometimes. But being able to destroy a Tearlament monster like a Scheiren on your side of the field and trigger its graveyard effect is huge too. So yeah, I really enjoy this card, and I definitely think it should be played in most Tearlament decks, especially if you use it like the way I do with your Diviners or your Destrudos. So with that, that's the Tearlament deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya!